Hello, everyone, and welcome back to round number 9 of the Oceania Online Treasure Cup. Round 9, final round. We have Law versus Law, the mirror match that we could have probably expected starting today off Dale. I don't think it's a big shock, to be quite honest. We've seen the field now. We're in the final round. This is kind of, I guess,
Yeah.
what we kind of expected. I would say that maybe a sprinkle of Zorro might have been on the cards. But this is kind of it probably is like one of the best decks right now.
Mm.
Oceania's had it win in the past
Last online
online. Yeah,
regional.
yeah, last online. It's just a deck to beat right now, and I don't see how it's you can comfortably do that these days. Like it's such a strong deck, and we're gonna see two of them go head to head now.
Yep. I think one of the big things that's like going to be happening here is like how many anti weenie cards they run. Like if they
Yeah,
run Nico Robbins, which I think actually we don't know if any of them run Nico Robbins. We haven't seen them,
we haven't
but
seen him in
like
them, but then we
Mister
have
as
seen
well.
Nico Robbins in certain lore decks, and
Yeah.
they're already off to the races. And speaking of like the other cards that we don't normally see, we can already tell that Dylan is running the Don Nami
Yep.
and a curly coming straight off for Hui.
And Hoy ran Don Nami as well
Correct,
last round.
correct.
So they're clearly on something different that other law players aren't. Um, Also interesting to note that they are swinging at each other. Like really early on in this game's life, one of the best ways to deal with Law was to not swing to give him that card
Correct,
advantage.
correct.
But it looks like in the mirror match, the idea is you do swing. So
Yeah, well, we did speak about it a couple rounds ago where, you mentioned like taking two life for Law is pretty straightforward and very normal.
yeah,
Um, and now we're just starting to see both players like really go for it. He's got the chopper on the field now, plays his own curly on his turn too, and now the Nami comes out, quickly search, leaving for Don available. We'll see what he actually manages to find. And this might not be how much weenie hate each player has. This might be how many cards you don't find off your searches and what you
true.
don't have for shambles, right?
Yep, there's a lot of things. Like whoever sees more law blockers might also just win
Yeah.
because
Yep. Yeah.
if you can play that card 4 times in a game, you're probably winning. Like
Mm-hmm. We're starting to see it. Finds the Brook. We've definitely seen what we can do with Brook. Um, Starting to see, like you kind of mentioned it in the last round, Dale. We were talking about, Sanji being like sitting there and probably not getting use out of it, blah blah blah. But definitely did get use out of it, and just starting to see the different play styles, even though they might be the same cards, but the different ideas of what to
yeah.
do with these cards, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of like player discrepancy and like decision making that really like
Mm.
reflects how different people play the same cards and same
Mm-hmm.
50.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really nice to see.
Law coming down for 3, being able to put some pressure on now. 2 life already down for Dylan. I'm assuming that the same thing will happen for
Yep.
Hui after this turn. Dropping down the Nami, looking for the top 5. We're going to see if he's able to find anything that he needs. Looks like he has found something.
It's
There's a
something.
Brook.
Good card.
Very good card.
Now, I just realized as well, since we are in the finals,
Mm-hmm.
they're both using non-alt art leaders. So that means throughout the tournament, G'day has used an alt art leader, and I forgot the name, but the Katakuri player was the only other alt art leader.
Yeah, 2 out
And
of 18.
yeah,
Granted, there was a lot of starter deck leaders, so that automatically writes them off. You know what? Speaking of that, man, let's get in one of these future sets. Let's just get some starter deck alt arts, man. That would be cool.
true.
Like how they do like the campaign rare and the stuff like that. Why
Yep,
why shouldn't we get a Luffy
alt art
alt art
leaders.
or a Croc alt art?
Well, they've done reprints of starter deck cards in alt
Correct.
art.
I agree.
Just make it the leader, you know?
I agree. And touching back on this game again, obviously the Brook does come down now for Dylan, and we are seeing. I mean, this wasn't how Law was originally played, from my memory. I could be wrong here, guys. So easy on the flames. But 5 red cards for almost every time I've seen a Law player come through. It never used to be wide red, was it? It was always a mixture, and then depending on what you were doing with it. But now it just seems like 5
I
red
think-
characters is literally the only way to play this now.
I think people realized the green 5-cost cards are insanely good because
Yeah.
you've got Restand Law, Blocker Law, and Basil Hawkins, right?
Yep.
Those are really good. And
Yeah.
then if you look at the red 5 costs that are playable, it's like Marco, but you don't want to be playing him off shambles. He's not that good for unit for 2. He doesn't.
Yeah.
All he does is a single pop. Like
Yeah.
Vista does the same thing effectively. So you want to be playing something more like Rush Luffy.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only good red card left. So I feel like people just realized,
Yeah.
hey, like these cards aren't good. Why are we running them?
Yeah, and like they almost kind of figured out like this is how it's meant to be played, right? Like there always is a learning curve, and it always is like, all right, time to actually put it to test. And this is probably why Law is starting to see so much more play, and it's becoming more dominant now because there is a clear line of play. And looking at both of these players so far, these things are what we're expecting.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Unfortunately, I don't think Law will be able to survive in set 5 meta, but that's like 2 sets away from
Correct. Like we're looking at the immediate, like now kind of situation.
If you picked up Law set 1, you're laughing if you've played a deck for 3, potentially
absolutely.
4 sets.
Absolutely. Like it's still going to be around in set 4, I would imagine. Like I can't see it not being around.
Oh yeah, but
there are obviously other decks that are able to kind of, stand front.
New decks are coming out and they just like Rebecca.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dylan has seen the first Law blocker, and that could be crucial in this matchup. If Hoy does not see any Law blockers, it's.
And wow, speaking of going far wide with red, plays the base, plays the Bonnie, swaps the Bonnie out for now the unblockable Luffy, which. Again, you were speaking of like the 5 costs are definitely better in green, but this is 1 5 cost in red that still continues to see play in today's meta and is such a strong card. And being able to play that for 2, I don't think you can find like better value for that.
Yeah, no, completely agree. The 2 costs 6k that can't be blocked with Rush.
Yeah. That has Rush.
And adds a searcher.
Yeah.
Back to him, like...
Yeah, look. Kind of crazy. Although props off to Bandai, I was having a talk to the guys at, locals the other week, and we were just talking about how, the Law 5k bouncer that is a blocker as well. It feels like it's going to be around for just the longest of periods, like because it's such a great card and so amazing. And I was thinking, like, okay, how are we ever going to, power creep this card, and when is it ever going to be like not viable and you're going to play the better version? And it's like it has to have a 1k counter, and then it's instantly like out of the rotation, or it has to be like a 5k 7, a 5 cost 7k. Like there's no other real ways to really do this. And again, like props to Bandai because they're finding new cards and new ways and new strats to do these things without just looking at the old stuff and being like, okay, let's make this better. Let's just make this a little bit better than what it was, and everyone's going to want it. Like they haven't done that, and I hope we continue to see that going forward.
Yeah, no, there's not like direct power creep really. The closest one I can think of is like 8 cost Uta Secret Rare getting power crept by the starter deck 7 cost kid. But like that Uta Secret Rare was so bad on release, and everyone knew that. Like that's not a.
I don't even know why it's getting re-released in set 5, dude. But it is what it is.
At least it looks nice,
Yeah, sure. We're seeing.
I am going to be. Speaking of the future sets and future proofing cards, I am going to be curious to see how Law can survive the new. There's a lot of like field removal getting printed.
Yeah.
Like that new Birdcage stage for green decks.
Yep.
Just pay 5 if you have 10 Don at the end of your turn, trash this stage and destroy all 5 costs or less in rest mode.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's huge.
Well,
Like,
even Rebecca, right? Being able to play a card down and getting rush if you swing into like one of your opponent's cards instead,
yeah,
and they can attack active mode cards. Like it just there's a lot more like to deal with the board thing now, and
yeah,
this is where it like indirectly gets countered to what's out there right now, which is a great variety of like, you're going to see, oh, this is like a kind of like a paper scissors rock where you're going to come up against it and you're like, oh, this is great, I can swing into your cards even if they are inactive, and then all of a sudden these rush Zorros that you're not swinging with because you want to keep 5 bodies on the board are now not as good as they used to be in the previous set. But it wasn't a direct counter to law players. It was just that, we made something different and this is now going to be its own type of deck. So,
yeah.
Nico Robin coming out, which is, I think, really, really good in this matchup.
100% agree. Being able to pop any small blocker like Beige or like even Nami searchers so they can't add them back to him.
Chopper, and knowing that it's just so valuable, and obviously being able to be searched, it has a counter power, so then you're gonna keep it in the deck as per normal. And wow, Dylan is
like we know
some defensive pressure here.
Yeah, depending on how that Nico Robin's played as well, like that could be extremely hard to remove.
Yep,
and if you swing into like the Rush Luffy that's rested with 2 Don attached on the Nico, you're getting rid of a card in hand to save it. You kill a blocker, like you sort of establish an insane amount of tempo. And if that Nico Robin lives like 2 turns, I think the game's over. But it's just been played, so we don't know how that's going to go.
Exactly right. We'll find out in a short while. But then, I forgot what I was going to kind of go from here, but actually what I was going to say is both players, and a lot of respect to both of them. They've come out here. They're both 8-0. They're playing for the final spot, and both look very like cool, calm, collected. They're not like, they're not rushing, but they're also not like taking their time and like really overthinking, right? They know their exact lines of play. They're both playing the exact same deck. They know what each one wants to do. They know exactly what the game plan is, and they're just like going at it, knowing that like this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm not delaying. Let's kick into it.
Yeah, they've definitely probably played this matchup as well 100 times or so. So they know what they need to be doing, as you said, and it's just whoever gets a bit luckier. Like
again, it is true. It's like, what do you play that hasn't been dealt with? And again, we find Nami Searcher here, and he doesn't find anything. There you go. Speaking of luck, there's always going to be a point.
2K Sanji? Jeez.
Always going to be a point where, like, inevitably you will miss, right? Like, I don't think it's ever going to be a point where it's like 100% it's going to be successful every single time you search. Like, there gets a point where you put stuff onto the bottom. You've already found things in there. You don't have a 40 card deck based on one search criteria. It's going to happen, and it's going to be interesting to see if that bites you in the ass like later on now, considering, extra card advantage is pretty important in One Piece game in general, not just like these decks, but replacing your hand, and drawing is, a pivotal part in this whole game itself. So,
and as you said, Law's best way to generate card advantage is just by having a full field and then getting advantage from that.
Exactly, the life that it also manages to grab, and
so looks like Nico Robin's putting 2 Don from Brook. That's huge, because if you swing into Luffy, which I would do every single day of the week, I might be wrong here, but like
the Beige,
you get rid of a blocker, you start threatening card removal from hand, you're just putting a bit of pressure out. It's nice. Like
and this is where it's going to come in. Like I feel like this is where it bites you, right? Because now you've just got rid of a Bonnie from hand, which is a 1K, which is fine. But at the end of it, if you found a 1K from the Nami searcher that you just had, that's what gets replaced now. It's literally like, all right, cool. Like that got replaced for me. I don't have to worry too much about that. But now it's like, well, I just lost a card and didn't gain a card.
Yep.
It's almost like a double negative now, where it feels even worse than it did originally.
Yeah. And Dylan has a lot of Don to work with this turn. He's only used 3, right? So he's still got Shambles.
Yep.
Hoy has 3 cards in hand.
3 life.
Yeah, so he can potentially try and clear field this turn. Like, there's nothing stopping Dylan from just constantly swinging at that Luffy to just try and get it off the board.
Yeah.
And if you can get that off the board,
You feel
or
a
you
lot
might
more
struggle to
comfortable.
replenish the board.
Yeah, I agree. That Luffy just staring you down, knowing that you can't use your blockers on field that you've gained, like you've put up, and he's just actually deciding to swing with the blocker. Oh, there you go.
Oh, it takes it.
I mean, that's fair because if that goes through, you can't use that law to block it anyway, right? But he didn't even look at his hand at that point. But I think he put about 3 or 4 Don under there, so it's about 9, 10k swinging out of 7, out of 6. Sorry. You're not going to drop hand just to keep that on field, I would say.
Yeah.
Good read by Dylan there. Now using his own shambles. Playing another blocker, and now that you don't have that unblockable Luffy, may still have the Diablo Jambe. Like, we don't know right now. But you've
it
still
needs
got...
to be on a Straw Hat, though. It's just on the
Gotcha. Okay. Finds his own. That's a very nice pickup.
That's a good hit, yeah.
Very nice pickup. He's still got 3 blockers available here.
Jeez, another Bonnie. No wonder he pitched a Bonnie so quickly.
Yeah, he just knew. What's he find?
I always get concerned when I see my opponent discard a Bonnie. It's like they've either got like 2 in hand or like they've got nothing.
Yeah, it's like, and you do it snap quick as well, right? Like, he didn't hesitate to discard that Bonnie.
So he's got shambles.
Yeah, it's online. Yeah, it's online.
Do you attach like 3 Don to Nami, swing, and then just shamble Nami back to hand and play the locker bounce like a Bonnie for a Nami?
There's multiple ways you can play this, right? Like, he does have options. You know, all those blockers, like there is 4 blockers on field, 3 of them are available to actually be to block with, no Don available. Gonna use a 2k counter out of hand. I can't really see how many cards Dylan has. It looks like about 3.
I think it was 4 or 5.
Really?
Maybe.
As you mentioned, he's just going to put on the Nami now and try to swing.
I reckon
like the Nico Robin?
Yeah, it'll have to be. So I reckon blocking here is the good play because, we're going to shambles probably another law. He added 2. Like, he has to add that play.
Rush Loro? No. Wow. Maybe he doesn't have the Rush Loro. Maybe that's what he's searching for. Another Nami comes down now and he's going to find the blocker Chopper.
So I think Dylan's next turn is probably going to be super similar to what happened last turn. Just attach 2 Don to Nico Robin, swing into like... Oh, never mind. He's going 7k where? Probably face? You kind of want to block this and just get a card off board so you can play a Searcher, right? Like, it goes to your turn, you can play a Searcher, then you can immediately bounce it back to hand with shambles. Like, sure, you get rid of a blocker, but it's not like just popping it with a Nico Robin.
Yeah.
This Nico Robin's going to put in so much work this game if it just keeps living.
Yeah.
I like how I think Hoy had like 3 cards at the end of Dylan's last turn, and now he's back at 5 and like got a full field that will happen. Oh, so silly. All right, 6k, probably, surely at like the Law or the Bonnie. It's got to be at the Law, right? Yeah. Do you just go like 6k Bonnie just to... Oh, I guess not. You can always just then swing into the Law. Oh no, it was. Jeez. All right. Yeah, if Dylan has like another Law or a restand Law, he's in such a good spot here. He can finally start like swinging face, I feel, like relatively comfortably. Play a Nami Searcher, perfect.
Just try and get a little bit more advantage back now. I mean, 2 bodies on your opponent's field. Oh, nice pick up there, I must say.
This could be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seeing like there's about 3 Bonnies in the in the trash now.
Yeah.
You've seen one or two Rush Zorros. You've seen, you know that your opponent has, I think he has like one or two blocker laws, the bounce block in Hui's hand. I think we saw like a couple of them come through. Again, these searches are getting really low. Like you're not going to be able to find many going forward.
Yeah. Uses a 2K to get out. He is down to 2 life, so Radical Beam is now online.
Yep.
If they do run it.
Yep.
I know a lot of lists don't though, so that's all good. But what are you shambling back here? I kind of want to say leave the Nico Robin on field. Bouncing a Law. Rush Luffy, hey? Interesting. Swing 6. Paying 5. Yep. Bounce an army, play the Rush Law. Oh, no, you don't play the Rush. Sorry, you keep that for next turn.
Nah. The Nami, see what we can find. Oh,
Another
man.
Rush Zorro.
Wow. So it comes down to here, if we can't clean up and like to, you know, set himself up for a future turn, this is looking very scary.
He does have like 5 or 6 cards in hand.
He does. But you know,
to deal with that
Shambles.
unblockable Luffy.
I feel like Shambles isn't real. Yeah, well, there you go. He's putting one Don straight under, and he's trying to go for some bodies here. I don't know how much more you're gonna find. Like I feel like you've looked. This is almost going back to the start. Like you've looked through your deck surely at least once now. Nice.
Gets his own Zoro.
Nice.
Okay,
that's a great pickup.
hand.
That's a great pickup. The hard part here is he's got 7 Don left. He did put one under lead to try and pressure a card out. So if he does do this, leaves him with 2 Don available, and he's got to find a 1 cost or at least a 2 cost to play. So then that way he can Shambles. But again, we've seen so many low costs. Now he's putting a Don underneath Zoro, and he's thinking to himself, I don't have enough to do Shambles.
Might have a 1 cost bounce, play Law Blocker. Because he does have a Law Blocker in hand, right?
Yeah.
So he can just play 1 cost Shambles.
I don't know, man. I don't think he has a 1 cost here to be able to play. I feel like he would have slapped it down by now, and then Law bounce back to Zoro, put it in. Taking a bit longer thinking about this, you would have done it by now. I feel this is a very unfortunate situation. If you're Dylan now, you're thinking the exact same thing. You're thinking to yourself, this guy doesn't have a 1 cost. If he doesn't have a 1 cost, I pretty much just win from here. And actually using the blocker to...
I wonder why. I think... Yeah, I don't know.
I think he knows that he was dead. Like next turn, if he doesn't start putting these out.
So he has to play Law here, right? Like,
he did have the chopper. Sorry, you're right. Wow, how did we forget that? And still swung with it. Still swung with the blocker Law as well. Very interesting. Now going to restand and swing with it again. Okay, that's wow. I mean,
that Zoro should be rested as well, right? Like, yeah.
Dylan's hand, even though he's like discarded like 2 or 3 cards this turn, he's still sitting at like 3 or 4. Just managed to get that advantage. Like, I think he just never missed the draws. And okay, that's one law being gone. He does have 1 life. The Luffy naturally is able to swing through this blocker that's being sitting here. But we know he's got 2 Rush Zorros.
Yep. So
I think you just drop both of those down, swing with both. If your opponent blocks one of them and can't get out of the other one, then you just go dump your hand onto unblockable Luffy. You've still got leader swing and the law. That's 6k naturally.
Yeah, and you still have 4 Don to work with.
Literally, dude. Like, I think I don't see a way that that Hui can get out of this. I think it's
his hand could be really strong. Like,
you reckon?
He could have 10k worth of counter in hand. Actually, what did he bounce back to hand?
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. Didn't he bounce back to Nami?
Yeah, so he's got 9k in hand.
Sure.
Potentially 11k afterwards, so after taking the damage, so
and just mathing it out now here for Dylan. You can. It's always funny seeing people put their Don out like that. It kind of gives information of like, I know it helps you, like obviously think about how you want to do it, but it also gives your opponent a little bit of information. Not that it really matters. It's your turn anyway, and there's not really any ways to like counter what's going to happen. But yeah, it's just so much easier to like put it aside, or like, you know how back in the day people used to just instantly lock 1 Don onto Zorro lead before they did anything. Yeah. It's like, okay, I want to do this. This is always going to happen. I'm putting 1 under the leader. Sometimes they don't even take it off. They just pass a turn and then, like, you know, they get their turn back and all of a sudden it's still sitting there.
Yep, 100%. I think it's always like being super awkward in this situation here where they're going for game, because you're like, all right, if they do it this way, they win. And then if they do it like any other way, you might have a chance. Like, how am I going to approach this?
Yep. There you go. There's a couple of cards coming from the hand now.
We know there's 2 Zorros, so that's going to force
2
more cards out.
Has enough to play both Zorros and then Shambles if he really wants to.
Yeah, and that could be
That's gross.
Play.
That is actually gross. Like, if he has...
I know what's happening here. Freestand law.
Oh, to go for the unblockable Luffy?
Yeah.
He's doing it.
Is this game 11k?
12. No, sorry, 11, yeah. Oof. Doesn't have it.
Oh, is that a radical beam? Jeez.
Oh, man.
So close.
Wow. Yeah, we're so focused on, you know, law and being able to do Shambles, we completely forgot about like just hard casting this stuff, man. Like, unreal. Well, that is it. Game over. Dylan taking Treasure Cup Oceania 2023 in August. Guys, that is going to be us from the stream. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. You will be able to find all the VODs onto our YouTube channel. It is being pinned there. I'll leave it up there for you guys. These guys are going to do their deck check, so we are going to transition it over to the end screen. Dale, again, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining me today in terms of casting this one with me. Guys, we look forward to getting you the top 16 deck lists as well. You will be able to find them on our Facebook page. Shout out to Tack for running a smooth event. Always fantastic.
I'll get the Wonderlong player to send you his deck list personally, mate. We're moving on up in the world.
Yeah. There's some good people out there. We need law to be done here, but guys, if you missed any of the action, you want to go back and watch any of the VODs, it will be up on the YouTube channel sometime this week. We'll be back. I think next week we'll actually have an in-person. So make sure you're subscribed to the even follow the Twitch channel to be notified when it goes live. Facebook will give you all the information there. But again, that's it from us. We're gonna head off now. I'm sure we'll see some of you guys again later on. It's always been a pleasure, but thank you all so much. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Enjoy.